I'm Jenna Carter, and I'm 20 years old now, a woman stepping into adulthood with a quiet determination forged in the fires of my turbulent childhood. My story, though riddled with hardship, is one of resilience and self-discovery. I was born to a loving mother who was taken far too soon by cancer when I was just 10 years old. After she passed, my life changed drastically, and not for the better. Within a year, my father, Peter, remarried. Suddenly, I had a stepmother and a younger stepbrother, Harry, who quickly became the center of attention. My dad, who once doted on me, became distant, cold and dismissive, utterly absorbed by his new wife and son. It was as if I'd been relegated to the background of my own family. My stepmother lavished affection on Harry while I became invisible, except when there was work to be done. By the time I was 11, I had essentially become the family maid. I cooked, cleaned, and took care of Harry, all while struggling to keep up with my schoolwork. What hurt most was my father's indifference. He barely looked at me anymore, and every small achievement I managed to earn went unnoticed. Meanwhile, Harry was celebrated for the smallest things. When he brought home a B on a test, we'd go out for ice cream. When I scored straight A's, no one even blinked. It wasn't fair, and it could have turned me bitter. But instead, it planted a seed of determination. By the time I turned 16, I resolved to escape. I threw myself into my studies, worked part-time jobs, and saved every penny. At 18, I earned a scholarship to a university 3 states away. When I left, I didn't look back. For the first time in my life, I was free. College became my sanctuary, a place where I could rebuild myself and discover who I truly was. I found a passion for photography and turned it into a successful freelance career. By 20, I had built a life filled with supportive friends, fulfilling work, and a quiet contentment I had never known growing up. Then, one bright Saturday morning, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I hesitated before answering, my heart sinking as a familiar voice filled the line. "Jenna," my father began, his tone uncharacteristically soft, almost pleading. "It's been a long time." My chest tightened. I hadn't spoken to him in 2 years, a deliberate choice to protect the life I had worked so hard to build. "What do you want?" I asked, keeping my voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling inside me. There was a pause, followed by a heavy sigh. "We need your help," he admitted. Harry left, took all his things and just walked out. "We've lost the house, and we don't even have enough for rent. I thought maybe you could help us out. Just until we get back on our feet." I was stunned. The audacity of the request left me speechless for a moment. This was the same family that had treated me like an outsider, like a servant. And now they wanted my help. "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice icy. "You ignored me for years, treated me like I didn't matter, and now that Harry's not around to worship, you expect me to step in and save you?" He stammered, trying to explain, but I cut him off. "No," I said firmly. "I'm not your safety net. You made your choices, and now you can deal with the consequences." I hung up, my hands trembling with a mix of anger and liberation. For years, I had carried the weight of my family's neglect. But now, I realized I didn't have to anymore. That evening, I met up with my friends, my chosen family. Over laughter and shared stories, I felt the last remnants of guilt fade away. I had made the right decision. For the first time, I chose myself. As the weeks passed, I felt lighter, freer. I threw myself into my photography, capturing the beauty of the world around me and finding solace in the art I loved. One afternoon, while taking photos at a park, I noticed a young girl sitting alone on a bench. She reminded me so much of myself, a quiet, thoughtful child with a spark of resilience in her eyes. I knelt beside her and showed her how to use my camera. Her face lit up with excitement, and for a moment, I saw a reflection of my own journey, how far I'd come from being that silenced, overlooked child. But the past wasn't done with me yet. That evening, my phone buzzed again. It was another call from my father. I stared at the screen, my heart heavy with hesitation. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Jenna," he said, his voice softer this time, almost broken. I know you're angry. I know I've failed you. But we're desperate. Your stepmother and I have nothing left. I don't know where else to turn. His words hung in the air, heavy with guilt and manipulation. My mind raced, caught between the lingering instinct to help and the hard-won strength that told me to protect myself. Dad, I began, my voice steady but firm, you've had years to make things right. Years to notice me, to care, to treat me like your daughter. But you didn't. You chose your new family over me every time. He tried to interrupt, but I didn't let him. The words I'd held back for so long came rushing out. I spent my childhood trying to earn your love, trying to be good enough for you to notice me. And you never did. You ignored me, neglected me, and now you want me to save you? It's not fair, and it's not my responsibility. There was a long silence. For a moment, I wondered if he might finally understand. But when he spoke again, his voice was laced with frustration. So, what? You're just going to turn your back on us? On your family? That word, family, hit me like a slap. Family. The same word they had used to justify years of neglect and mistreatment. The same word they were now weaponizing to guilt me into helping them. I'm not turning my back on my family, I said, my voice resolute. I'm turning my back on the people who treated me like I didn't matter. I've built a life for myself, a life where I'm valued, where I'm happy, and I won't let you drag me back into that toxic mess. His voice broke, and for the first time, I heard something that might have been genuine regret. I'm sorry, Jenna. I didn't realize. No, I interrupted. You didn't. And now it's too late. I hung up, my hands trembling but my heart steady. I had made my choice. I wasn't that helpless little girl anymore. I was Jenna Carter, a 20-year-old woman who had fought tooth and nail to build a life of her own. And I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from me. In the days that followed, I felt a strange sense of peace. The weight of my family's manipulation had finally lifted. I wasn't responsible for their mistakes. I wasn't obligated to save them. I was free to live my life on my own terms. One sunny afternoon, I found myself back at the park, camera in hand. As I captured the world through my lens, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the strength I had found, for the friends who had become my family, for the freedom I had fought so hard to earn. A little girl ran up to me, her face glowing with excitement. It was the same girl I'd met before. I tried taking pictures like you showed me, she said, holding up a small, beat-up camera. Do you want to see? I knelt beside her, smiling as I scrolled through her photos. They were imperfect but beautiful, full of life and curiosity. You have a good eye, I told her, and her grin widened. In her, I saw a bit of my younger self, a girl yearning to be seen, to be valued. And I realized that while I couldn't change the past, I could choose how I moved forward. I could choose to let go of the pain, to embrace the life I had built, and to share my light with those who truly valued it. As the sun set, casting the park in golden hues, I took one last photo. The girl laughed as I captured her joy, and for the first time in years, I felt completely at peace. My journey wasn't over, but I knew I was on the right path. I had chosen myself, and in doing so, I had found my freedom. The seasons changed, and with them came new opportunities. My photography began to gain recognition, and I was invited to showcase my work at a local art gallery. It was a small event, but to me, it felt monumental, a validation of the hard work and passion I had poured into my craft. On the night of the exhibit, I stood nervously by the entrance, watching as people admired my photos. Each one told a story, a blooming flower breaking through concrete, a child's carefree laughter, a sunrise after a storm. They were snapshots of resilience, hope, and beauty, echoes of my own journey. Among the crowd, I saw familiar faces, Clara and Nate, their smiles filled with pride, and the little girl from the park, holding her mother's hand. She ran up to me, her eyes sparkling. "Your pictures are so pretty," she exclaimed. "Thank you," I said, kneeling down to her level. "You know, you're part of this. That photo over there," I pointed to one of her laughing as she held her camera, is one of my favorites. Her face lit up, and she turned to her mother. See? I'm in her pictures. Her mother smiled warmly. You've inspired her more than you know. Thank you. As the evening went on, I found myself reflecting on how far I'd come. The gallery buzzed with conversation, strangers connecting over the stories my photos told. I felt a deep sense of pride, not just in my work, but in the life I had built. Toward the end of the night, a man approached me, his face familiar but aged. It was my father. I froze for a moment, unsure of what to say or do. He looked out of place in the polished setting, his expression a mix of hesitation and regret. Jenna, he began, his voice low, I saw the flyer for your exhibit. I just wanted to see it for myself. I crossed my arms, guarding the fragile piece I had worked so hard to build. Why are you here? He looked down, as if searching for the right words. I've been thinking about what you said. About how I let you down. And you were right. I did. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to tell you. I'm proud of you. I always have been. I just didn't know how to show it. His words stirred something in me, a mix of anger, sadness, and a longing I thought I had buried. I searched his face for sincerity, for any sign that he truly understood the pain he had caused. I don't know if I can believe that, I said, my voice steady but strained. You had years to show me, and you didn't. Words don't erase what happened. He nodded slowly, his shoulders slumping. I know. I can't change the past. But if there's any way I can be part of your life now, even just a little, I'd like to try. I looked at him, weighing his words. A part of me wanted to shut him out completely, to protect myself from more disappointment. But another part, the part that still craved a father's love, wondered if this could be a chance for something new. I don't know if I'm ready for that, I said honestly. I've spent a long time healing, and I'm not sure I want to open old wounds. He nodded again, his face etched with regret. I understand. Just know that I'm here if you ever want to talk. And that I'm proud of you, Jenna. Truly. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving me to process the whirlwind of emotions his visit had stirred. I didn't know what the future held for our relationship, if there even was one. But for the first time, I felt like I had the power to decide on my terms. As the night wound down and the gallery emptied, I stood alone, surrounded by the stories I had captured. The world outside was quiet, the streets lit by a soft glow. I stepped out into the cool night air, my heart full of uncertainty, but also hope. Life wasn't perfect, and it never would be. But I had learned to find beauty in imperfection, to embrace the messy, complicated journey of healing and growth. And as I walked home that night, camera in hand, I knew one thing for sure. I was ready for whatever came next.